We expect about 90% of the votes to be counted by midnight here. So within the next few hours, we should have the vast majority of the votes counted in that state of Georgia. So we're going to keep an eye on Georgia. Looking to see if there's any votes that have come in any of the population centers of Frankfurt, Lexington, or Louisville. And we don't have any votes reporting yet. Of course, we have about half the votes coming in from the smaller counties around Frankfurt and Lexington right now. And again, roughly the same story here. So we're looking at Woodford County, about half the votes coming in, small rural county on the exurbs of Frankfurt, Kentucky. Kamala Harris is beating Joe Biden's numbers by about 0.5% here with just over half of the votes in. I don't know if this is going to be replicated in every county in Kentucky, but it sure does look like it so far. Jessamine County, we're seeing, again, about 2 points different in Kamala's favor from Joe Biden's 2020 margin. Let's look at Clark County. We just have 4% reporting in Clark County right now, so can't really glean too much. Montgomery County, we are seeing Kamala Harris beating Joe Biden's numbers by about 1.5 points there. So I think the consistent theme that we're seeing in county after county, in at least some of these overwhelmingly white states, which also can tell us a lot about the electorate in some of these other white states, like Wisconsin, for example, like Iowa, for example, where we're keeping an especially close eye after the Ann Seltzer poll, is that even in these counties where you wouldn't think Democrats would be leaning into their margins because it's an overwhelmingly black population, for example, look at the demographic data in Montgomery County, where we're looking right now. This is almost 94% white here. And for a county like that, that shows that there are white people who should normally be part of the base of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Enough of them are defecting that we are seeing 2% margins go in Kamala Harris's favor, even in these small rural counties in Kentucky. And of course, we've seen that as well in Indiana also. Let's see. Let's go back to So it looks like we've had the race called for Bernie Sanders before a single vote was counted here. Bernie Sanders will win re-election in the state of Vermont. So congratulations to Bernie Sanders. We've also had another call for the U.S. Senate. Jim Banks will win the U.S. Senate in the state of Indiana. So those are two races called. Of course, it's purple because Bernie Sanders is an independent. He caucuses with the Democrats. I want to head back to Indiana for a moment here. Oops, let's go to the presidential race. Back to Indiana. Hamilton County. As soon as we have an update here, which I think is coming soon, this is the county to look at. If we head out to a comparison from 2020, again, look at these numbers. Kamala Harris is beating Joe Biden's margins by 5 points. Donald Trump is losing on his margin by about 4 points here. So good numbers for Kamala Harris, at least as it relates to Hamilton County. As soon as we have an update there in Hamilton County, I will bring it to you. So we'll go back to our regular map here as we await some election results And as we await some results out of Georgia. There we go. We've got some results coming in from Georgia. Small numbers reporting right now. Let's go to historical comparison. Now, when we do the historical comparison, wow. Look at these numbers here. Rockdale County, 76% reporting. Kamala is beating Joe Biden's margins by 5 percentage points. Donald Trump is losing on his margins by 5 percentage points. I wish I knew how to do quick math. 70 minus 29. 41, 75 minus 24. 10-point swing. That goes to show how good at math I am all that time to be able to add 5 and 5. That's why I was an English major. Okay, a 10-point swing in Rockdale County in Georgia right now. Let's head over to Douglas County. Again, 75% reporting. We are seeing again the same point, about 6-point swing in Kamala's favor so far. I do want to caution that the votes that we're seeing out of Georgia are blue mirage numbers. So the votes that are coming in first are heavily early votes, mail votes, early in-person votes. The votes that are going to be counted after are going to be Republican heavy election day votes. So good signs right now that Kamala Harris is beating Joe Biden's numbers and that Donald Trump is not meeting his 2020 benchmarks. But again, wait until until we get more results in before we can read too much into this stuff.
Davis, the AI engine at the heart of the Dynatrace platform, doesn't just see every entity in your environment. It instantly knows how they all relate. So if
and a small rural county with about 3,000 votes remaining here shows Donald Trump beating his numbers. So it'll be an interesting test case to see how Donald Trump does out in these counties here. But we have still a lot of votes left to be counted. We have 4% of the vote reporting here. So we will check in as these votes continue to get counted out in Georgia. But some welcome signs as we look at a county like Rockdale, where 76% of the vote has been counted thus far. So there's a few counties that we're going to want to look at in Georgia once these votes start coming in. Let's see. We have no results from Clayton. So once we get more votes in, we have some good benchmarks in terms of what Kamala Harris has to hit. So as those numbers continue to get reported, we can look at counties like Clayton, Fulton, DeKalb, Cherokee, and Forsyth to give us an indication of how Kamala Harris is doing. But right now, we just don't have enough data that's come in so far out of Georgia to be able to make anything even close to an educated guess. We do expect, though, Donald Trump to be gaining in some of these deep red rural districts. Of course, we hope that for a lot of the suburban outposts of Atlanta, for example, and Savannah, that's where Kamala Harris sees a lot of her support consolidate. So as soon as we get those numbers in, we'll bring them to you here. We have 3% of the vote reporting in Georgia. Now, One thing that I do want to caution, when these votes do start to come in, they should be heavier blue than red. So right now, Kamala Harris is not only leading Donald Trump 51 to 48, it's only 3% reporting, but she's also beating Joe Biden's margin of 49.5 to 49.3. But we do expect these numbers to get blue before they get red. So expect her to build up her lead as they continue to count mail ballots and early votes, and then for her lead to be chipped away at as the election day votes, which are going to be overwhelmingly red, continue to come in. So that's the situation in Georgia right now, where the polls closed 22 minutes ago. For folks who are wondering how long we're going to be at this, I know we have a lot of viewers right now who weren't here earlier. Here's the laydown, here's the breakdown of what I expect to see in terms of when these races are going to be called. We are right now getting results reported out of Georgia. I do expect that there is the possibility, depending on the margin, that we could see Georgia get called late tonight. The same in North Carolina. Same in North Carolina, we do have the possibility, if the margin isn't too close, that we can see North Carolina called tonight too. Then we go to the blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Unlikely that we'll see them be called tonight unless the margins are wide enough that they do feel comfortable making those calls. Otherwise, we might see more of a Wednesday, tomorrow situation in those blue wall states. Then you get out to Arizona and Nevada. Unlikely that we'll have those states called either, because I know Nevada accepts mail ballots that come in up to several days after the polls close that are postmarked by Election Day. Okay, let's look. We are looking in Virginia right now, where polls closed at 7 o'clock as well. Votes just starting to trickle in. We only have about 5,000 votes that have been recorded out of Virginia. A couple of races that we're keeping an eye on in Virginia are Virginia's 2nd House Congressional District and 7th. So let's see where we're at on those. We can go over to the House map right here in Virginia. We're going to be keeping an eye on this race. Jennifer Kiggins, who is the Republican incumbent, will be in a close race with her Democratic challenger, and also in Virginia's 7th Congressional District, where Eugene Vindman, who is the brother of Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, Alexander Vindman, is running for the House here. And these are bellwether districts, so we'll get a good idea of what the rest of the country is going to look like once we have results reporting from these districts. But right now it looks like in Virginia's 7th Congressional District, we only have about 1,000 votes reporting. And in the 2nd Congressional District, we have 0 votes reporting. So buckle up. It is going to be a night here as we wait for these votes to get counted. 369,000 votes remaining, with 0 in right now on these 2 bellwether districts out of Virginia, which again will give a clear indication of what we're looking at in the country more broadly. let's take a look down in Florida to see what we have thus far. As it stands right now, Donald Trump, with about half of the vote reporting, is leading Kamala Harris. Of course, I don't think there was anybody that really believes that Florida is a swing state at the presidential level. But let's take a look at, it looks like he is running above, Donald Trump is running above his margin in 2020, with about half of the votes reporting right now. Let's take a look at how the Senate looks, because there is a Senate race where Debbie Mukersel-Powell is running against Rick Scott in the state of Florida. So we'll head down to Florida, and it looks like Rick Scott is running about 10 points ahead with 15%, I'm sorry, about half of the vote reporting right now. So Rick Scott beating Trump's 2020 margin, and also Trump beating Trump's 2020 margin, running about 10 points ahead of Debbie Mukersel-Powell with 10% of the vote to go. Florida should be one of the quickest states to get their election results fully in. So a little bit of a rough result for Debbie Mukersel-Powell right now. The polling, let's see how Debbie Mukersel-Powell, the polling as of the latest poll had her running about, let's see if we have any. Morning Consult had Rick Scott running 3 points ahead. So yeah, about 3 points ahead. So we'll see if this race tightens a little bit. Well, let's see where the votes remaining stand right now. So here we go. Population centers. Palm Beach, Orange, Pinellas. So these are population centers right here. So Palm Beach County, Polk County, and Orange. We have no results in from Palm Beach County. We have no results in from Polk County. And we have no results in from Orange County. So if it looks lopsided, that's because the Democratic population centers, where Orlando is, West Palm Beach, and Tampa, we don't have those votes in yet. So sigh of relief here. Because we're not seeing these population centers report. Again, if you're looking at the votes remaining right now, that is these Democratic strongholds where the vast majority of votes. We also, I believe, don't have, it's not, up here Tallahassee isn't too much of a population center. But you can see Palm Beach, or Orange, Pinellas, and Lee. Let's see what the breakdown of Lee County is. That is a Trump-friendly county. Palm Beach is a Democrat-friendly county. Pinellas is pretty damn close. Just about tied. Joe Biden eking out a victory in Pinellas in 2020. So a lot to keep an eye on out in Florida right now. .30. It is 7:32 East Coast time. That means the polls are now closed in North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia. Now, here's a call. Jim Justice has won in North Carolina. In West Virginia. That means that we officially have seen our first flip in the U.S. Senate of the election cycle. We all, of course, expected, since Joe Manchin was not running, this seat was pretty much a giveaway, and without a single vote being counted thus far, the race has been called for Jim Justice. So this is a loss for the Democrats on the U.S. Senate column, one that was fully expected. as we move ahead here. Back to the presidential map. That state of West Virginia has also been called for Donald Trump. So as it stands right now, Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes from the state of Vermont. And then, of course, Trump has 32 from the safe red states of West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, and South Carolina. All eyes, of course, are on Georgia as these votes continue to come in. We have about 7% of the state reporting right now. 0% reporting from Fulton County, 0% reporting from DeKalb County, 0% reporting from Clayton, 0% reporting from Richmond County, where Augusta is, 0% reporting from Chatham County. So for anybody looking at this map and getting worried because we're seeing Donald Trump up by 18 points in Georgia, do not worry. None of the population centers have counted their votes thus far. Let's head over to North Carolina, where the polls have just closed. We don't have any numbers reporting yet, but as soon as they come in, we'll make sure to bring them to you. No polls, no numbers reporting thus far. We should have numbers out of North Carolina not too long from now. North Carolina is one of the quickest states to report. We are about 25 minutes, by the way, away from polls closing in Pennsylvania. Let's go back to Georgia and see how it's looking out in that state. Not much different from previously, where we saw about 7% reporting. We now have 8% reporting. Still nothing coming out of Fulton County. Still nothing coming out of DeKalb County. And nothing coming out of Gwinnett. So all of these major population centers out of Georgia, it remains to be seen how those votes are going to look. But we have the historical benchmark, so we know what numbers Donald Trump has to hit. We know what numbers Kamala Harris has to hit in a lot of these counties. Let's head back to Indiana, where we were keeping a close eye on Hamilton County. It looks like Trump has squeaked into the lead there, but here's why this is important.
Si pudieras imaginar tu forma ideal de trabajar, ¿cómo sería? Monday.com puede hacerla realidad. Con Monday.com, todas las empresas de cualquier sector y tamaño pueden
2020 numbers. While Kamala Harris may not be leading in this county, to see her pretty much tied in a county where Donald Trump was leading by 7 points is pretty telling, and I think we can read a lot from the tea leaves there. Of course, that's only 59% of the vote reporting here, so we still have much more of the vote to come in, but already an interesting story being told out in Indiana. According to NBC, the top issue among voters is democracy at 35%, the economy at 31%, abortion at 14%, and then immigration at 11%. So Republicans largely predicated this entire campaign on immigration, on mass deportations, and it looks like even though mass deportations unto themselves aren't popular, it's not even registering as one of the principal issues. Democracy being at 35%, according to an NBC exit poll, bodes well for Democrats and Kamala Harris. Some news out of Iowa. Johnson County, which is Iowa's most Democratic county, is on track to shatter turnout records tonight. Shatter turnout records tonight. And of course, that comes in line with what we heard out of the Ann Seltzer poll showing Kamala Harris winning the state of Iowa 47-44. Remains to be seen whether that comes to pass, but would lend itself to exactly that. To give a lay of the land right now, this is where it stands on the presidential plane. Safe Republican states of Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, and South Carolina have been called for Donald Trump. Vermont has been called for Kamala Harris. At the U.S. Senate, we have Indiana and West Virginia called for the Republican candidates. So we have the race called for Jim Banks in Indiana, and we also have the race called for Jim Justice in West Virginia. That is a flip since Joe Manchin opted not to run. And then, of course, for the Democrats, we have Bernie Sanders, who maintained his seat in the state of Vermont, an independent who caucuses with the Democrats. Taking a look at the House races right now, let's see if we have any results from Virginia's 2nd congressional district. We have 4% reporting here. If we look at the historical comparison to where it was, this was a very close race in 2022, and we only have 4%, so not going to be able to glean much from these results thus far. But Virginia's 2nd congressional district is something that we're going to keep an eye on. Let's see if we can go.
And who did you vote for?
Can we hear this on the stream?
Tell me about how you came to this decision.
So I wasn't gonna vote at all until my girlfriend was blowing up my phone, telling me to go vote. And if I did, she was gonna break up with me. So now I'm here.
Was she seriously gonna break up with you?
No, I made that up to say that, but it's funny to say that.
So she asked you to vote for Harris.
She did.
And so you voted for Biden in 2020, but what were you going to do this time?
I wasn't gonna vote at all.
You were just gonna stay home.
I was gonna stay home, eat some chips or something. I don't know.
And so you came just before polls closed, but here's the thing, how long did it take? Most people have been saying it's taken them 5 or 10 minutes. Tell us
Oh, we have an echo here, so I'm going to...
how long it took you to vote.
So I got off of work at 4:30, drove here about 30 minutes. I think I walked in like at 5:05-ish, and I was waiting for about 2 hours. I just walked out.
Brian, 2 hours to fix your address, right?
2 hours.
Brian Flores, thank you so much. Aaron, back to you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about the little bit of echo there, but I just thought that was an interesting little video there that we had. Okay, let's head back to some of these poll results that we have here. Going back to Virginia's 2nd congressional district, we're going to keep an eye on Virginia's 2nd and also Virginia's 7th These are two bellwether counties in Virginia, two very close races that will determine, in large part, who is able to control the House this cycle. So, with we have we have 1,000 votes reporting right now in VA7, and also just over 20,000 here reporting in Virginia's second. So we're going to keep an eye on those and see how that continues to shake out as we have more results that come in. So let's go back to the presidential race and see if we have any results out of North Carolina here. It looks like nothing reporting yet out of North Carolina. Heading back to Florida. We have almost 2/3 of the votes counted in Florida. Let's look at how Donald Trump is doing relative to his 2020 numbers, overperforming his numbers from 2020. I want to head over to the Senate race in Florida and see how Debbie Mukersel-Powell is doing. Rick Scott besting Debbie Mukersel-Powell by about 9.5 percentage points right now, with about 60% of the vote reporting. If we look at how she's faring on Joe Biden's 2020 margins, she's running below his margins right now. Still 4 million votes remaining to be counted, so a lot can happen. And of course, it's worth noting that the places where votes are still outstanding are Orlando, for example, are Tampa and Jacksonville and Miami. So a lot of the Democratic population centers, Miami-Dade, Orange County, still has almost more than 500,000 votes remaining. Let's hear from a voter. Oh, it's all good. I'll mute myself. Let's hear from a voter out here in Michigan.
I voted for Kamala Harris.
Why is that?
I have 3 daughters, 4 children overall, and women's rights is pretty important to them and my daughters. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about that. I didn't think that I was going to do that, but just their bodies, their choice type of a mentality. I want them to grow up in a world that's welcoming to everybody. So yeah, that's why I cast my vote today.
So we are seeing a lot of these kind of voters come out and learning about why they're coming out to vote. Again, we saw that democracy, that abortion rights are first and foremost on people's minds. Okay, let's now head over to Georgia and see if we have an update out of Georgia. About 12% reporting, so just a little bit more reporting than before. Still 0% in Fulton County, 0% in DeKalb, 0% in Gwinnett, and 0% in Richmond. These are the Democratic population centers. We have 5% reporting in Chatham County, which is where Savannah is, and not too much we can glean with just 6,000, 7,000 votes cast right now, but we'll keep a close eye on Georgia and see how everything continues to shake out there. Remember, we are looking at the gubernatorial races in the country right now. I anticipate that we will see a call soon for the North Carolina governor. I do want to announce that Fox has called the race for Josh Stein over Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor right there, who obviously got himself into a lot of hot water, what with his pro-Nazi comments and some issues he had with some posting boards that he felt the need to post on. So Fox has called North Carolina governor for Democrat Josh Stein, which would be a major win. We are waiting for Decision Desk HQ to call the same thing here out of North Carolina. We'll keep an eye on that. But let's go back to the presidential race. And as we approach 8 p.m., we are looking toward Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania polls close at 8 p.m. All eyes are going to be on Pennsylvania. Michigan's polls in the northwestern portion of the state close at Michigan's going to close, depending on it's in the middle of two time zones, but we should see polls close at 9 p.m. Let's see. Yeah. 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., depending on where you live in the state. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Pennsylvania polls closing in about 12 minutes here. %, reporting out of Georgia. Not much we can read from 19% reporting thus far. With regard to Donald Trump's tweet about Philadelphia and Detroit seeing heavy law enforcement, in Philadelphia and Detroit, Detroit's mayor's office said they don't know what Trump is talking about. A spokesman for Detroit's elections department says, "We are unaware of any police presence in the city for elections beyond what was outlined in a press conference last Thursday and widely reported nationally."
Earlier today. And,
so again, Donald Trump doing his level best to spread disinformation that he can later use as a predicate to help him cast doubt on the election results.
Important to notice, but by and large, there haven't been widespread problems.
Realizar estos pequeños cambios en un archivo CAD tan grande me está matando. Por eso me pasé a ZWCAD, porque es súper rápido.
Generally, we see these problems at the start of the day when machines don't start or, polling places don't open on time because, frankly, volunteers didn't get there in time or poll workers ended up in traffic. So there are these little hiccups. And by and large, state boards of election or county boards, whatever is the controlling authority, they've largely said, okay, you got a 30-minute late start. You can have an extra 30 minutes at the end of this, just to make sure that everyone has the full time to exercise their rights in this democracy.
Yeah.
There have been a few hiccups that have to be noticed. There are a couple bomb threats that were phoned in, apparently from Russia, into Georgia, which is really disturbing.
Have you ever heard of that before?
Not so explicitly and not disclosed in real time. It was very quick for authorities to very publicly say, this is the work of Russia. To be clear, there were to this point, no signs that the bombs were actually ever there. There was foreign effort to scare people away from voting, honestly. And that is really not, I don't care what side you're on this politically. That's just not cool. You want, the only way this works is if everyone believes the results are credible. And when you have people not voting because they're afraid they're going to be blown up, that's just, that is straight out of the 1950s and 60s voter intimidation. That is not where we want to be.
Totally. But it's voter intimidation coming from an outside actor, which is even.
Yeah, not cool. If you believe in the American experiment here. There are a couple others that are just, they're kind of remarkable. For instance, in Texas, in San Antonio area, a person in a MAGA hat showed up at the voting place, and you're not allowed to do electioneering inside voting places. I'm not even allowed in to talk to voters in most of these places, let alone in any way for advocates to try to persuade people to vote a certain way. He was asked to leave. He allegedly assaulted an election worker, and the police report says he's facing a third-degree assault charge. So I mean, there are always these little things that add up. But by and large, I mean, in Florida, there was this 20-minute delay in Doral County for a suspicious package. So I mean, every state has their little things that they're. I mean, not little if you're, an election worker afraid that there's a bomb somewhere in the school. But by and large, things are working the right way. There are I'm not exaggerating when I say there are tens of thousands of volunteers looking over the shoulders of election workers, tens of thousands of lawyers on the ground ready to adjudicate anything that might seem anyway hinky in any way.
Yeah.
And really, you've got a ton of people. Common Cause alone fielded 6,000 calls today. They have done 45,000 calls since July 1 of people who have questions about voting and real time and want to make sure they have access to the polls. So really, the system is clicking along. The advocates and the voting rights people are really getting this right in a big way, which was not always guaranteed even a week ago. There was a lot of worry about what this was going to look like, whether we were going to devolve into chaos. I mean, I'm here in downtown DC, and the area around the White House has storefronts boarded up already for fear of this election going sideways in a big way. And I'm really relieved to this point on election night. Those fears might have been overblown.
Right. I hope that you're right. For the sake of all of us. I did just want to ask you a question about a story you wrote earlier. The polls may be way off, but that doesn't mean the election was rigged. I'm curious, you've written a lot about polling.
Yes.
I've read them all. I'm curious, what the significance of polling in this election cycle has been, and sort of the role of the poll, if you will, and why it matters now.
Right. So, I mean, over the last couple cycles, we've really gamified politics, and people started substituting polls as substitutes for actual votes. Right. And there's this, if you're basically treating this like a fantasy football league, that's
which is
fun.
Like the most American thing ever, is it not?
Exactly, and we love this for us, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone. But you start putting too much weight, you put too much confidence in the polls. The polls are by definition only right about 95% of the time. There's usually about 1 in 20 chance that the poll is just junk. That is just the nature of public opinion research science, and that is just the cost of doing business. The problem is, especially since President Trump, then candidate Trump, he took polls to be predictive, and when things didn't match, when vote counts did not match the polls, he took that, and it has to be said wrongly, as an indication that something was rigged. Just because the polling doesn't match the votes doesn't mean the polling was wrong, doesn't mean the votes are wrong. Both can be right, because polling by its definition is outdated the minute it's printed off.
Right.
That it is a snapshot of a very limited time of a universe that data scientists, wonks, nerds, for lack of a better word, they anticipate and model who they think is going to show up on election day, and make sure that is reflected in the polling. The sample is adjusted to account for that. For instance, if 40% of the votes are expected to be men, they should really only represent 40% of the people talked to. And if it's going to be 60% women, you might repeat some of those women, female respondents in the poll, to make sure that they account for 60% of the responses. It's just polling 101. Right. But not everyone took that data science course in college. Not everyone really enjoyed their stats class the way I did. So you have to, this is armchair statistics here, but you end up weaponizing these polls, especially when your candidate is doing well in the polls, and then the numbers don't always match. So really, I wrote a piece this morning that it would do everyone really well to not even look at the polls today. The numbers going into today are not necessarily going to be the numbers coming out of today, and really you can't treat them with the same weight. There's only, it's a horrible cliche, and I want to smack it out of the mouth of everyone who says it to me, but the only poll that matters is the one taken on election day. But there actually is accuracy in that. So as we sit here and the first votes are starting to come in and be tallied. So just keep hitting refresh on the returns, either on time.com, we have a lovely interactive there,
Right.
or any other Secretary of State site, or just go through any other of our colleagues'
Right.
data reporting. We don't need the cheap substitute now. We actually have real votes that are being cast and counted.
Right.
Those are what matters. The polling to this point, tens of millions of dollars spent on them, billions of hours wasted reading them and trying to look at. I've wasted so many hours our editors' time doing this research. But it is now it's time for us to look at the real numbers, not the imagined.
Well, here we are on the day when the poll that matters actually coming in. And as a reminder, time is following the Associated Press calls today. So that's where we'll be getting our real-time data from. Phil, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And check back in with you as the night goes on.
I'll be around.
I appreciate it. Take good care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, you're looking there at the electoral college map as the votes start to come in. Polls are starting to close. Have closed in places. And I just want to remind again, this is a very careful, slow process for a reason because accuracy. So what you are seeing here is really it will take a while for us to have final numbers. It could take days, right? In the last election, several days. I want to talk a little bit about early voting because more than 80 million people have voted early before today. That's half projected voters, which is a lot. And early voting itself is a relatively new idea for a lot of Americans. In 1972, roughly 95% of voters voted in person at their local polling places. That was one day. Come in, vote. And that would be that. And then slowly over the next 50 years, we started to see more and more options. You can see that the map's starting to fill in more. Again, the lighter colors are places where numbers are still being counted. Super interesting. Back to early voting. As I was saying. Then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. All of a sudden, voting early or by mail became a very appealing option for a lot of people. Concerned, obviously, their personal health. More than 110 Americans voted early, in person, or by mail. That was like 70% of everyone who voted in that election. We won't know the final total number of 2024 voters for weeks until all the results are fully counted. But pre-election voting is expected to make up about 50% of all ballots. Sort of similar to what happened in the 2022 midterms. If we want to talk about key swing states, North Carolina and Georgia, both saw record numbers of people participate in early in-person voting, with the totals in Georgia exceeding the numbers from 2020. And North Carolina was still lower than 4 years ago. Just wondering if there are any other numbers that I want to tell you about as we continue to look here at the map. There are different kinds of advanced voting. It's not all early voting. But Specifically, it's called before election day. It includes voting by mail and voting conducted before election day. And when you vote in person early, this is not surprising. It's kind of like voting in person on election day. They even give you a sticker. It says I'm an early voter. But you would know that. You voted already. And mail-in voting is different, but obviously involves the mail. Actually, Oregon only has mail-in voting, which is interesting. Yeah, in 2020, we all know early voting was partisan thing, based on candidate Trump at that time telling people not to. But this time, 2024, it seems to be a bipartisan effort. And I don't know. If I were a betting man, I would say early voting is here to stay.
Hi, my name is Chantal Lee. I'm a reporter for Time, and I've been covering abortion in this election. This election breaks a new record for the highest number of states that have abortion-related measures on the ballot. This year, there are 10 states that are going to be voting on the issue. Voters in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New York, and South Dakota are all going to decide whether to amend their state's constitution to include protections for reproductive rights. And Nebraska is the first state to have two competing abortion initiatives on the same ballot since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. One of the measures in Nebraska would enshrine the state constitution the right to abortion until fetal viability or later if needed to protect the person's health, while the other would amend it to incorporate a ban on abortion in the second and third trimesters with exceptions for rape, or medical emergencies. In five of the states that are voting on this issue this year, Arizona, Florida, Missouri, Nebraska, and South Dakota, there are currently bans or restrictions on abortion. And so if there are abortion measures passed, that would effectively upend those restrictions. So far, since 2022, voters have sided with abortion rights every time the issue has been on the ballot. One of the most closely watched abortion-related ballot measures this year is in Florida. The state currently prohibits abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy, which is before many people even know they're pregnant, and it carries some exceptions. If the measure passes and it needs 60% of the vote to pass, it would effectively upend the state's current restriction and enshrine the right to abortion until fetal viability or later, if necessary, to protect the pregnant person's health within the state constitution. Trump had initially suggested that Florida's 6 ban was too strict and indicated that he would vote in favor of the abortion ballot measure, but he later backtracked and said that he would vote against it. After he cast his ballot, Trump was asked twice by reporters about the state's abortion rights ballot measure. And first he evaded the question, repeating a sentiment he's expressed throughout the campaign cycle that he did a great job bringing it back to the states, a reference to the three Supreme Court justices he nominated who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade in 2022. But when asked a second time about the Florida ballot measure, Trump said the reporter, quote, you should stop talking about it.
Cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, ha, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into gains, I'm the boss, I'm making change. I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain, I just wanna be greatness. 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 Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste me, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate me, you know where to find me. And if you go and hate this, you can fucking bite me. Okay, I'm going off every chance I get. I don't really take a loss, well, I'll admit. That's why I'll make it to the top, yeah, I commit. And no, I'm never getting lost, I get after it. Investing in my own stock, cause it's faster than any crypto hits go, let me spend. Everything that you see is something I invent. And it's only a percent. I'm gonna take shots. If I miss all, forget it. I'll take a fat loss just to learn all that's in it. I'm taking snapshots, learning how to fall and get it. I'm getting back up, always stand tall, don't sweat it. I never back up, I don't miss a thing or regret it. I'm always learning, you could call me academic. I'm always working, never been apathetic. That energy is like a poison, needs some antiseptic. Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste me, you can try me. If you wanna hate bitch, you know where to find me. And if you go and hate this, you can fight me. Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, ha, not fucking likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into gains, I'm the boss, I'm making change. I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a fucking name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain, I just wanna be greatness. 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 Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste, bitch, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate, bitch, you know where to find me. And if you go and hate this, you can fucking bite me. Okay, I'm going off every chance I get. I don't really take a loss, well, I'll admit. That's why I'll make it to the top, yeah, I commit. And no, I'm never getting lost, I get after it. Investing in my own stock, cause it's faster than any crypto hits go, let me spend. Everything that you see is something I invent, and it's only a percent. I'm gonna take shots, if I miss all, forget it. I'll take a fat loss just to learn all that's in it. I'm taking snapshots, learning.
Tech presenta Primero lo Primero. No hacer esperar al que te esperó todo el día es impostergable. Porque en la vida hay que tener muy claro cuáles son las prioridades. Tech. En el mundo de la minería, el mundo debe estar primero.
If you wanna hate, bitch, you know where to find me. And if you go and hate this,
Hi, my name is Solcira Burga, and I'm a reporter at Time Magazine specializing in student loans and LGBTQ issues. Hi, my name is Solcira Burga, 2024 and I'm a reporter at Time Magazine specializing. This year there are 34 Senate seats up for grabs that could give I've also been either Democrats or Republicans control of the Senate. This year there are 34 Senate seats up for grabs 47 that could give seats either Democrats and there are 4 independent senators that caucus with them. The Senate. And Republicans have 49. Democrats currently have so Democrats have 47 majority seats. But it's really unclear independent senators that caucus with and honestly, and Republicans have 49. The president, so Democrats have and whether they're majority able to enact their agenda. It's really unclear who could take control for the country. And obviously, so in West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, the president announced that whether they're able to enact their agenda and their vision up for grabs for the country. It went so to in the West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, so the Republican Party that he was one seat from a candidate that ultimately it went to the Republican governor Jim Justice. So the Republican Party took in Texas one seat where Democrats are hoping a candidate that Representative Colin Allred. There are also other highly watched Senate races seat in Texas where Montana through time incumbent Representative Colin Allred is also up against former Navy SEAL Tim Sheehy, that is really unclear. In Montana through time incumbent Senator John Tester. There are a lot of Senate seats up against former Navy SEAL Tim going to be taking control of both the Senate and the House. Former President Donald Trump. There are a lot of Senate seats up for grabs, and it's really unclear who's going to be taking control of both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Doing no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad.
I just wanna stay bad, stay mad. Chip on my shoulder cause they treat me like an outcast. I ain't gonna take that, stay back. I'll be swinging hard till the hits come in all caps. I ain't gonna lay back, pray that someone's gonna help me. Ain't nobody like that. I ain't gonna wait, that's all fact. Give me one shot and I'll never get the throne back. I'm sick of being cautious. I'ma go cause something, can't stop this. I'ma steal everybody's lane, call it shoplift. Sick of hearing everyone complain when they thoughtless. Taste the pain, it's like candy canes. It makes me go change into a better frame, into a better name. Society's insane, we all live for fame. Yeah.
Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad. I got cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad. I won't obey. You cannot tell me what I cannot say. I'm here to last, so yeah, I'm here to stay. I'll live each second like my final day. You can't take that away. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad. I got cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad. Baby, I'm bad. I got cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad. I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad. Do it no
Gamers por Chile 3. Aventura en el mundo oculto. Una nueva partida solidaria por los niños de la Teletón. Recorre el mapa recolectando monedas y depositándolas en la sucursal de Banco de Chile en Fortnite. Antes de que el tiempo se acabe, toma una captura de tu puntaje. Súbelo en bancochile.cl. Completa el formulario y estarás participando por increíbles premios gamers. Un setup gamer, un PlayStation 5, un Nintendo Switch y 50 paquetes de 2.800 pavos. Busca el mapa como Gamers por Chile 3 o ingresa con el siguiente código. Súmate a esta nueva aventura solidaria. Banco de Chile, desde siempre el banco de la Teletón.
Cuando me preguntan por qué hacemos cerveza austral en el fin del mundo, con vientos tan intensos, un frío que congela hasta los huesos y una inmensidad que puede hacerte sentir muy pequeño, les digo que aquí está el agua más pura del mundo, los mejores ingredientes naturales y sobre todo la gente con el corazón más grande, que pone todo su cariño para elaborar de manera artesanal una cerveza tan única como su origen, para que sea donde sea que destapes un austral, disfruten los sabores inigualables del fin del mundo. Cerveza Austral.